Red River will always be one of the more exciting games of college football. We've seen these two teams in Texas and Oklahoma do some pretty incredible things, and they're currently working through new journeys. Joining the SEC was always going to be a transitional period, and Texas appears to have transitioned a little bit better so far. But this game is a rivalry game, and it's going to be really fun to watch these two teams compete. When you look at what Texas has done so far, obviously they've done some really exciting things, and you're looking at two teams that still very much don't like each other and want to win this game. Texas comes in to this matchup with a really exciting opportunity ahead of them. When you look at what these two teams have done, I think that you're looking at a really exciting matchup between two teams that are, again, Texas is in one place, Oklahoma is kind of in the other. And so far, we have yet to see what each of these teams can do, but you're also feeling really excited about where these two programs could be in the long run. I think that right now Texas has its sights set on the college football playoff. Oklahoma, obviously, a little bit more of a difficult start, but there's some good things with this Oklahoma team. I think that there's still very much some excitement within this program, and I think the quarterback situation sorting itself out will help in that regard. When you look at the biggest questions for each side, I think the biggest thing is, can Quinn Ewers stay healthy for Texas? And that's going to be more of a long-term question, probably necessarily than this game, but obviously it's important in this game. I think that Texas has struggled a little bit under Arch Manning. I think that was going to be expected, though. You don't necessarily go from Quinn Ewers to Arch Manning flawlessly, even with the amount of talent that both of them have. So there was always going to be, in my opinion, some lag between the two, or some of a drop off between those two. And Texas definitely has the talent to be better than what we've seen over the last couple weeks, and Quinn Ewers is going to make that difference. Now, he has not played in a little while. We'll see if there's some rust that he needs to shake off. That could be another question, is how much time does he need to get back into the swing of things? For Oklahoma, it's, can the offense really get going? That's probably the biggest question. Michael Hawkins presents, excuse me, the a different look. You're having a dual threat who can make some pretty incredible plays with his feet. When you look at what he has done for this team, he has obviously given them a new dynamic in the rushing attack that we did not see with Jackson Arnold. And you just have to find ways to make some better throws. You're going to have to face this Texas defense, a defense that has been really fun to watch so far this season. And if Hawkins can make some really big time throws, or even just some easy completions to get the ball to his playmakers, that's going to be a big key for them. I think maybe even a bigger question is, are the wide receivers going to be healthy? This is a group that came into the year with a ton of excitement. When you look at Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, you had a number of players at wide receiver that everyone was really excited for, and injuries have kind of ruined that. And that's the part that's so hard about sports, is injuries just kind of ruin things and make it difficult for certain teams to thrive, because they're not playing at 100%. And not that that's an excuse for Oklahoma, but I also know that this is not the same team without those guys. So if they can be healthy for this game, then great. If they can be healthy long term, that obviously helps Oklahoma tremendously. The matchup that I'm curious to watch is going to be Oklahoma's defensive line, though, against Texas offensive line. Oklahoma has a really good defense. I think that they are very underrated still, because of the struggles offensively, but this defense means business. And Texas has a really good offensive line, and I think that that's going to be a really exciting matchup to watch. Those two sides will really dictate how well each side can play. And right now, you feel pretty good about both sides. It's just a matter of getting to where you need to be, and whether it's creating disruptive plays for Oklahoma, whether that's getting explosive plays for Texas. All of that starts in the trenches. So I'm really curious to watch that. You could also say the same thing about Texas' defensive line against Oklahoma's offensive line. Oklahoma's offensive line has struggled so far this year, and I think that they're looking to bounce back in a big way. So if you're able to find protection for Michael Hawkins, who again gives you a little bit different dynamic than what we saw with Jackson Arnold, we'll see what happens there. But at the same time, you should have the offensive line needs to step up. I think you should have higher expectations for that group, and they simply put need to play better. Now, when you look at the impact players for the Oklahoma Sooners, Everything is going to start with Michael Hawkins. And when you look at what he has done so far, again, the plays with his feet obviously are noticeable, but he obviously needs to make some plays with his arm as well. And so far, we have seen some throws by him. I think that he can make some really good throws. We just haven't seen that as consistently. And I think a big reason is because of that offensive line. If that offensive line gets to where it needs to be, you feel pretty good about where this program can go. The rushing attack, simply put, needs to be better as well. Obviously, the passing attack is, going through some injuries and depth concerns. So the rushing attack kind of has to play better in a way if they can. Who that's going to be, I don't know. We've seen guys like Javante Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk. You've seen those guys play. Taylor Tatum, even. Those are guys that can play and step up in a big way. We just haven't seen it yet. Part of that's on them. Part of that's also on that front group. And the wide receivers are also kind of having that similar kind of struggle. But again, we talked about the injury concerns, the depth. Deion Burks was brought here to be an explosive threat, and so far he has not been that's only not even averaging 8 yards per catch. And that's not what you brought him in for. But also some of that again is not because he's not doing his part. It's not because he's not talented. It's because the injuries have really hurt and he's had to do so much. Tight end Bauer Sharp has been a good addition. I think that he's still a very intriguing option for this offense, but we will see. Brendan Thompson, again, another guy that could be part of that as well. Again, you're just looking for some really some production to stay on the field. Nick Anderson is someone who is a game changer. He has not been able to stay healthy. We've seen, we saw Andrew Anthony and Joe LaFleur for one game each. And that's obviously, those are two guys that you were expecting to rely on early in this season. And that just obviously has not been the case. Injuries have just destroyed the depth in what should have been one of the more exciting groups in this conference. That has put a lot of pressure on the defense. But fortunately for Oklahoma, there's plenty of impact players on the defensive side of the ball. Danny Stutzman's an absolute stud. He is a phenomenal player at linebacker. Billy Bowman's the same way at safety. I think you've had a number of exciting players show what they are capable of doing. And you've seen some other players step up in a big way too. R. Mason Thomas, who we talked about in the preseason as someone who could step up for this team, has done so. He has been really exciting. 6.5 tackles for loss. He has been really good for a group that has a lot of talent, and that's just adding depth, which unfortunately I think they'd take some of that depth and they'd love to have it at other positions, offensive line, wide receiver, that kind of those positions. But unfortunately, they can't really control that. So that's really unfortunate. But you do have some really good players for Oklahoma. So don't just count them out because they've had some struggles. This is definitely a team that is ready to compete and show that they're capable of pulling off an upset. The impact players for Texas, everything starts obviously with Quinn Ewers. If you're able to keep him healthy, keep him upright, you're feeling pretty good about what your offense can do. The running back position has been under the spotlight because of the injuries. Obviously, you lose two of your depth pieces and your start, one of your depth pieces, I should say, and your starter in CJ Baxter. That has thrust Jaden Blue and Jarrett Gibson into more prominent roles so far this year. So that's been something to keep an eye on all year. The rushing attack needs to help balance out this offense. The wide receivers have been as expected. Ryan Wingo has been a surprise. And I think the freshman I don't know if they expected him to be this much of a contributor. They knew that he was capable of doing that, but we have seen him take huge steps. Isaiah Bond was a good addition from the transfer portal from Alabama. He's been the top receiver for this team. Matthew Golden, same thing from Houston. That's been a really good addition, and this is a passing attack that could still have its best performance of the year. I think that the best is yet to come as long as, again, Quinn Ewers stays healthy. Going to the defensive side of the ball, Anthony Hill Jr. is someone who we talked about in the preseason as someone who could step up and be a big time player for this team. He has done exactly that. Freshman Colin Simmons has been a nice surprise. 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He has been tremendous for a defense that is full of talent. So this is a group that has plenty of ability, plenty of talent. And right now it feels like Texas is the better team. I don't think anybody's really going to debate that right now. This is a team that is very much one of the best. If you're not going to call them the best, they are definitely one of the best teams in college football, and they have a playoff in their sights. Oklahoma has some things to figure out, and that's not a great time to have it right now against a team like Texas. I think that Right now, you feel better about where Texas is at, but Oklahoma is looking to find some chemistry and potentially pull off an upset that would shock everyone. With how college football has gone so far the last 2 weeks, an upset wouldn't be out of the question. I just don't think it's very likely. But again, that's why you play the game. And this is one of the more exciting games in college football. So we'll see how that plays out.